episode of Inspired Writing. You're in the right place if you're thinking about writing, if you have just started writing, or if you have a few books published already. This week, I thought it'd be really fun to talk about live events and to give you a behind the scenes look at what I'm doing this week at Millerville Christmas Market. It's a question I get all the time because I love doing live events. Now, there's lots of different ways to make a living as a writer, and you don't have to do them if you don't enjoy talking to the public. But if you want to get out there and talk about your books, I'm going to share a few tips with you on how you might do it or how you might know if you're ready to do big events. So I take my fountain series with me. I started doing live events when I had 2 books. Or events on my own that are outside a bookstore, and I'll talk about that in a second. When I had 2 books, and I think that's a good gauge. Just with 1 book, it's kind of hard to sell enough to make it worth the time or to make it worth paying for your table. But I do highly recommend that you start out, when you have your first book out or your first couple, start out in bookstores, because you don't have to pay to be in a bookstore. You call them up, you tell them about your books. If you are self-published or with a small publisher that isn't distributed in bookstores, you do need to bring your own books to the bookstore, and they will take 40 to 50% of the sale price. But you don't have to worry about selling the books, you don't have to worry about getting the people there. All of those things are taken care of for you, and you can get comfortable talking about your books. So I like to talk about the story of Ava in the Fountain series. And I tell about how she throws a coin into the fountain and makes one of her friends disappear. And then people talk to you about the books and they ask you what it's like to be a writer, and we have great conversations, and then it's either a book that they're interested in reading or it's not, but at least we had that conversation. And a lot of times people say, thank you for stopping me because I wouldn't have even looked. I didn't even know that I was coming in here looking for books today. But if you have a conversation and their interest is piqued and you tell them a great story, then sometimes they'll think of themselves, first of all, or maybe they have somebody in their household or on their Christmas shopping list that loves to read that might love your books. And so that's how you can meet new readers. Now, if you get really comfortable selling books in a bookstore, where you don't have a lot of overhead, you don't have to bring your own table, you don't have to do a lot of stuff in order to sell books in a bookstore, then you can take a look at your sales and see, what are you selling per hour? And that's a good way to take a look and see if you're ready to do live events, because then you can look at the price of what it costs to be an event and project out per hour how many books you might sell. Now, I would say it depends on the event and how many people are there and how many people are there that are in your target market, but you could expect to sell anywhere between 1 to 3 times per hour what you can sell at a bookstore. So you can sort of have a safe way to try it out, and then you can look at it and say, and the reason I do it per hour is because some events have 12-hour days, 9-hour days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. And so if you do it out by hour, then at least you can figure out and project how many books you need to bring to your event. Because if you're doing live events, you do need to bring your own books because there's no bookstore there to sell it for you. There's also a handful of other things that you need to bring to a live event, and I've got a checklist of what I brought with me to Millerville Market this week that you can use as a guide. You don't need everything when you just get started out, but I like to be prepared, especially when it's outside. So I'm going to show you a little bit here about some of the events that I've been to over the past couple of years, and then I'm going to talk about what you might want to bring. I've attended many Comic-Cons or expos across Alberta over the past few years, and they're lots of fun because you can also present there. I talk about writing and magic systems and meet all kinds of readers and writers that way. And at last year's Comic-Con, it actually interfered with my tour schedule in Northern Alberta at schools, and so the fabulous Mark Watson manned our booth. I also highly recommend finding events that are for your target market or your readers. This Girl Can in Calgary is one of my favorite events. It's tons and tons of tweens and teens to talk to. And then we come to Christmas markets, which are all kinds of fun. And people are really excited to be there, and they come and they're happy to talk to you. This year's Christmas market at Millerville is what I'm doing this week, and it's what I promised you guys a behind the scenes look at. So this is my booth. It is outside, so that provides lots of other elements. We did have a snowstorm, which I'll talk about in a second, but take a look at all the items on my booth there. I've got a price list. I've got a sign up sheet
for people to stay in touch with me on my email list. I've also got my awards. If you don't have any awards yet for your book series, put out some reviews. People want to know what others think of your writing, besides just meeting you. And definitely stand out front and talk to people and tell them about your books. So also, because books are small and you're competing with lots of other things, you want to make sure that you have a beautiful display. So bring lots of books so that people can tell at a glance what it is that you're selling. And they know that when they come over, they're going to get to meet the author, which is super fun. And lots of people, even if they're not your target reader or demographic, will come over and chat with you. So get a smile on your face. And this year there's lots of PPE, so you've got to be prepared for anything, but keep smiling. We had a snowstorm on Sunday, and so I had to actually make a few modifications, but still made my booth cozy. So you can see there in the bottom right, I've got a heater so that people can come and chit chat. And also I had to cover the books because it was snowing even inside my booth because the wind was blowing so much. But be prepared for anything at events and just be out there and have fun. People want to support you and they want to learn and they want to talk about books.
Thank you so much for joining me at this week's Inspired Writing. I hope you got some insight into what it's like to be at live events as a writer. And if you have any questions or if you're interested in doing live events and you want to float something by me, by all means reach out and I'd be happy to answer your questions. You can find that checklist that I promised you, which is all the things that I brought with me to Millerville Market, the actual checklist that I used. Wherever you're watching this video, there'll be a link to it. I hope you have fun, and if you do live events, good luck. Have fun talking about your writing. Until next time.